Hi, I'm Ellie from Sawdust and Stitches, and welcome back to my channel. Today is day number 8 for our 12 Days of Christmas series, and I am so excited. We've had a lot of fun sewing things up until this point, and even today. Today's pattern is going to be the oven dress. It is a towel attached to a little bodice. It does snap at the sides, and you just place that over your oven bar or a towel bar, or honestly any bar you want, and snap it in place so it doesn't fall off, and it's a beautiful little accent. As always, I want to say thank you for joining me, and if you like this video, click that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, then you'll be notified when I make new content. All right, let's get sewing our oven dress. All right, so for our oven dress today, we are going to need 2 of our pattern pieces cut out, and I am using quilt cotton, which is what's recommended. So I do have a woven interfacing already applied to the back and fused on. I'm going to have a scrap of piece of lace that I can use to accent that waist on the oven dress. You can use rickrack. You can honestly, if you don't want it, you can just leave it without any lace. Sometimes I've put lace around the edge. If you want to do that, you can as well. And then I picked up this towel from the Dollar Tree. We're just gonna take the towel, fold it in half, making sure that it's equal. Pull it up on there a little bit. All right, and then I'm just gonna slide my scissors in here on the side. Let's go this way. And then just cut it in half. We do use both pieces for one towel, one oven dress. So one towel makes one oven dress, but one is for the front and one is for the back of the oven dress. This happens to be a pre-printed towel. You can use a plain towel, you can use a printed towel, or you can embroider something on a towel if you are an embroiderer. Whatever you want, you can mix it up. You can also add a ruffle to the bottom of it if you choose. I'm today going to keep it pretty simple, but those are options that you also have. All right, so I'm going to set my towel aside and oven dress pieces, and along the corners I am just going to snip that corner so I can fold that back, and you want to snip it at about a 45-degree angle. This is so we can make a nice edge on it. You don't want to go too far, but you need to have enough to where you can fold it. And we're going to do that on both. Just clipping into that corner. Oh, perfect. All right, so we are going to take our iron and very carefully just fold those edges back. If you want to fuse it with Wonder Under or Steamacine, I have used both of those in the past. They work great. If you don't want to just iron it, those are 2 options. You can also use a glue stick and stick it down. Just ironing all 4 of those corners back. We're going to do this on both pieces to make that neckline nice and finished. If it's a rounded neckline, if it's a straight neckline, it's really flexible, so you don't have to stress. Just don't stretch the fabric too much. Just pressing it down. Do the other one. If you need to clip it, you can. I think it's pressing pretty well for me, so I think I'm gonna pass on the clips at the moment. I may change my mind. This project is really pretty quick and easy. It's not difficult, and oh my goodness, it makes such a cute final project. People just love these. I have done a lot of these with embroidery on them. Don't know where that came from. With embroidery on them, and it's just so cute. All right. So we are going to take those two pieces and we are gonna flip one right side up, leave the other one upside down, and we are gonna match all the long edges on both sides and clip them together. So we're just gonna clip those together. I work with so much vinyl, it's kind of nice to work with the quilt cotton for a change. There we go, looks good. All right, and we are gonna take this to the sewing machine and we are gonna sew all the way around on both sides, but we're not gonna sew the top and the bottom. We're not sewing the neckline, just the sides. Okay, so just gonna sew that seam allowance, following the information in the pattern. Pivoting at curves. Back stitching at the beginning and the end. All right, repeating on the other side. Perfect. Now we are going to take and cut threads, but we are going to clip the seam allowances at the bottom at an angle. We're going to clip into the corners, not clipping the stitching line, so just to the stitching line. Any outside corners we're going to trim away, and inside corners we're going to clip. So trim away, and I usually try and angle it a little bit too here. And then clip into the inside corners, not getting those stitching lines. And then again, clipping the edges. So we're going to go all the way around the whole oven dress, and we are going to clip and clip and clip, making sure we don't cut any seams, but trimming away anything that's going to prevent us from getting a really pretty turn. Couple more. Got a corner here. Make sure that went through. Yep, we're good. Trimming that down a little on each direction. And then up. And the last one. Just across the bottom there. Perfect. Now we are going to take our oven apron and we are going to turn it right side out. So we're going to just pull it right side out. It's a pretty easy turn because we have a pretty wide opening. Just keep working with it. And poking those arms out, the little arms that, the sides that form the arms. And same over here. That little arm out. Sleeve. I guess sleeve is a better way to put it. It's a sleeve, not an arm. All right. And then just the last piece down here, pulling that out. Till it's all right side out. Now we're going to take this to the ironing board and we're going to iron all those seams flat, poking out all the little sleeve corners, and I will meet you there. All right, so we are going to make sure that all those corners are nice and turned out. Give you a good sharp corner on each side. So I'm just using my little turning tool and I'm just getting those corners good and open. You can use a boning tool or a turner for this. And then I'm going to take my little turner. I'm just going to hold this down and just kind of run it along the side. That helps to kind of pop out those side seams. There we go. Perfect. That little corner could use maybe a little bit more oomph. There we go. And then on this end, just going to take that and just push that up against the seam. Not too hard. You don't want to go through the seam. Don't use a pair of scissors or something that'll pierce the seam. And then the other side, do the same. Just kind of pushing that seam out. Perfect. And then kind of just reestablishing our folds here that we made before we turned. Just kind of setting them the way they need to be. They are going to stay. We're going to clip it when we're done pressing. But we don't want to press them out. So we're going to kind of try and lay them down nice and press it. And just do a little bit at a time. You don't have to do the whole project all at once. So I'm just going to start out here with this sleeve and this. Then I'm going to kind of work in to that seam Don't burn your fingers. Just keeping everything nice and even and trying to get that seam to lay really flat. Just gives it a nice, pretty finished edge. All right, and then kind of re-establishing these seams we had. Just rolling them in and pressing them. Press the other arm. Turn it around, work on the bottom, kind of starting from the middle of the sides and working down towards the bottom, just pressing everything as we go. Making everything nice and flat. Perfect. Looks pretty good. All right, so now I'm gonna take my longer clips and I'm just going to go around and I'm just going to clip these edges together, just kind of securing those in place. I guess I got some plastic ones. I only had 2 of those here. Just securing that fold down, making sure that it's still folded, not turned underneath. We'll flip it over just to make sure. That clip missed it. All right, just to make sure we're still folded. Then I am going to take just a touch of fray check at each corner, both front and back, and dab that on. That helps just helps it from fraying and pulling. In the end, it's fine. You're not going to see that, but it's a good extra support to add. All right, so I got the fray check and I'm just dabbing a tiny bit on each corner. This dries clear, so you're not going to see it, but it really does keep that edge from fraying. Quilt cotton is quilt cotton, no matter what. Turn it over, do the other side. Also gives you a better look to see if there's any places that maybe need to be folded a little bit better. All right, I think that's good. Looks good. Both sides look pretty even. This one maybe a little bit more right there. So just take the iron just to hold it down a little bit. Don't iron over those clips. The metal ones are fine, but don't iron over the plastic clips. Your iron will not like it. Just making sure. And then you're going to find a side that you like better. I like this side better. So now I am going to sew top stitch all the way around the edge of that neckline. Perfect. So we are back at the machine and we're going to just top stitch around that neckline. You want to stitch as close as you can to the edge, but you do need to make sure you're catching both layers. So I would say about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit, tiny bit more. You don't want to go clear to 1/4 of an inch. And when we're done, we'll check and make sure we caught both layers. These are so cute. They're such a cute little accent for a kitchen or even a bathroom. All right, back stitching, perfect. Cut those threads. All right, and it looks like I am good on the back. I caught it all the way around, so perfect. So now we are going to take our towel. We're going to take 1/2. We have the raw edge at the top, up here, you can see, and we're going to do gathering stitches. And what we're going to do is we are going to, about 1/4 inch down from the top, we're going to stitch a basting stitch with the biggest stitch your machine has. Mine is a size 5 stitch. You're going to leave long tails at the beginning and the end so you can pull on those threads, and then you're not back stitching. And then you're going to repeat and do another one right below it, about 1/4 inch below. So these are our stitches that we'll use to gather the top of the towel. And once I'm done with this half, I'm going to repeat the same process on the other half. So here we go. Making sure my stitch length is as big as I can get it on my machine. And I'm just going to sew straight across at about 1/4 inch. I'm leaving those tails long, and I am not back stitching. Go right to the edge, stop, long tails, cut those threads, and then go back to the starting edge again and do the same thing right underneath it, about 1/4 inch or so underneath it. You're going to do another row of stitching, not back stitching again, just kind of following that previous stitching line. Don't cross it. If you get a little close, it's fine, but don't cross that previous stitch line. Don't back stitch, and leave those threads long. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go to one edge, and we're going to get those bobbin threads for both of the rows of stitching. So see, I have those bobbin threads for both of the rows of stitching right here, and I'm going to hold those and pull, and I'm going to gather the upper edge of the towel, and I'm going to go from one side to about the center, and then I'm going to go to the other side and grab those bobbin threads and gather that side. Move it so you can see better. Just pull on those threads, moving the gathers in and gathering the other side. So our upper edge of the towel, the raw edge, is gathered. I'm going to repeat that same process with the other piece of the towel, and I'll meet you back at the ironing board. All right, so we have the neck stitched, and we could have done this before, but we're going to do it now. I am going to put my fingers in the edge, and I am just going to pull. What I want to do is fold down about 1/4 inch and press it. So I'm going to start by finger pressing it, folding the other one down, and finger pressing. You want them to match close, but it doesn't have to be exact. You're not going to see them both because the towel's going to go in between there. So don't panic if they're not totally even. It's okay. You just want to make sure there's enough fabric in there to where when you stitch that towel into place, you have enough for that to grab. And I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to press that down, keeping those edges folded in. You can use a little seam press, like, what is that? fabric stiffener pressing agent, like to keep that sealed and down. I don't find it necessary to do that. I think generally with just working with it a little bit and ironing it, it stays pretty well in place. Can be finicky, but finicky sometimes is just what we do. There we go. You can steam it if you want. I don't put steam in my iron, but I do use the spritzer sometimes. All right, I don't think I need that today. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Doing the same, putting my fingers in those corners and pulling them. Now, we could have, before we turned it inside out, we could have folded up an edge and sewn it with that edge folded. That is also a really good technique to use. I can show you how to do that in a later video. If you've turned a bag and you've folded up an edge and then sewn it, you'll know what I mean. If you haven't, I'll show you at some later date. This way works. Just, there we go. And then iron that down. Trying to make sure it's as straight as I can. These are just fun little decor, so it's okay. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, although that's unfortunately usually my standard. But when it's hanging on the oven, you're not going to see it. And we're going to put lace over the top of that. So just making sure that you can use a clapper if you want to keep that flat while it cools. And now we're going to take our towel. Don't cut those threads yet, but we're going to just slide. I usually roll the edges of the towel back just a little bit and just slide that in. And you can use straight pins and pin that in. And then do the same with the other side. Now, as we go, we're gonna kind of gather that and make sure it all fits in there. We want the gathers to be even all across. So let's try and give it a little bit more gathering here at the end. Perfect. And then fold that over and then place that inside. And then I am going to just use clips on each end to secure, instead of the pin for now. I'll use the pin, but to just secure that in place. And then we can kind of move the rough or the gathering around till it's like we like it. With this particular one, if you wanted to leave it a little bit less gathered in the middle so you could see this better, you could do that. So why don't we do that? Just kind of pull the gathering around a little bit, and that looks good. So I am going to pin it through all those layers just to hold it. And the same with the centerpiece. I think we'll do it this way. And it's just to kind of secure it. And then we are going to take this over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew across the bottom edge of that at 1/4 inch. We want to make sure that we get the bottom. And now that we have it all tucked in, we can cut these strings. So go ahead and cut those off, get them out of our way so that they're not distracting. All right. So we're going to sew across that bottom 1/4 of an inch seam. Get that tacked down. We are going to, before we do that, let's go ahead and pin the other one into place here. Just going to do the same thing. Gonna make sure the edges are pretty gathered. Fold that little edge in, slide it in, push it over to the side, and clip it down. And then the same with the other end. Gonna roll that edge in, push it over into the side, and clip it down. Where'd my clip go? There we go. So those sides are good and secure in there. And then we're gonna gather up. If we need to, we can gather more or less and put the rest of that towel inside. In this case, because I have a design, I'm kind of centering it. And looks pretty good. Lost that clip. Get another clip and a couple of pins, and we'll be all set. Making sure that my basting lines are tucked in, because you can take them out. They're not a commitment, but it's easier not to have to. It's less work. I like less work. All right. Tuck it all in there. Pin it in place. It's a lot of layers, but just kind of, just want it to lay nice. You don't want it like puckery in one place and not in another. That looks good. So I will pin that. I'm gonna go ahead and trim those threads here in just a minute. It kind of wants to come out, so. All right, that's looking good. Go ahead and pin that one down. My pins are dull. Perfect. All right, so now we'll go back to the sewing machine, and we can fiddle with it as we sew as well if we feel like it's just too much in one area, and making sure that we don't see those basting lines, but we're going to take it back to the machine and sew that across. So now we sew at that 1/4 inch seam allowance, back stitching at the beginning and the end to secure that towel down. Depending on your machine, you may need to use a hump jumper. And make sure you don't sew any pins. Don't want to sew over those pins. Tucking in that basting, making sure it's all tucked in. Take a minute now, save 10 later. That's kind of the motto of it. Keeping that 1/4 inch all the way across. If we need to fiddle with it as you go. Looks good. Oh, there went a pin, but thankfully I just went right over it. I'm not used to using pins. All right, almost there. Back stitching. Perfect. Now, if you don't want to put any lace on, I would go over this and do another row of stitching about 1/8 of an inch above the one you just did. If you want to add the lace, then hang out with me. We'll get that taken care of too. Just trimming all these strings. Cutting threads. All right, and don't forget to change your stitch length back from a basting. I forgot, so I am just going to go over. Actually, I'm not, because I'm going to put the lace on. So I did change it for the other side. And I'm going to take the other side and do the same. 1/4 inch across that skirt, sewing the towel into the bodice. Making sure all my ends are tucked in as much as possible. And here we go. Back stitching. Always back stitching at the beginning of the end. And if you need that hump jumper, grab it. My machine tends to be okay as long as I just give it a little bit of encouragement. Making sure all the basting stitches are tucked in and not seen. Just keeping that 1/4 inch seam allowance, taking the pins out so we don't sew over them. Perfect. Looks great. All right, so as I said, zoom it out. You can leave it just like this. There's nothing wrong with that. You can leave it like that and put your snaps in, which we will do. Or you can add lace. I'm going to add lace just to show you how to do it. I think it looks cute with it. And I am going to back you up a little bit. All right. Adding the lace. Make sure you have your lace right side up and wrong side down. And I'm going to square off the end there. And then I'm just going to make a fold. Just a 1/4, 3/8 of an inch. And I am going to place that back on the back side of my skirt. And then I am going to clip that in place with the clips on the side. And then I am just going to, as I go along, I'm just going to keep that lace even with my stitching line or just above. And so I know how much I need. All these strings. Let's clip the strings. They're bothering me. I meant to clip them before anyway. All right. Perfect. So I am just going to measure by pulling that gently across. I'm not tugging it tight. And I'm just going to go in about 1 inch on the back and cut that thread or cut that lace. And then fold that raw edge inside. And then I'm going to clip that in place. I may unclip it as I go because I'm going to ease it, but that gives me something to work with. So we're just going to sew on the lace across, making sure those ends stay tucked in. You're going to sew it at the smaller seam allowance, back stitching at the beginning and the end. If you have a zigzag machine, you can zigzag this. To secure it a little bit better, or to feel like it has a little bit more oomph, but it isn't necessary. You can do it totally with the straight stitch. And just making sure that my end is tucked around the back and my raw edge is still tucked in. I'll go all the way to the edge, back stitch, maybe a couple of times just to make sure, and the lace is done. We'll cut threads. I don't know where my little scissors went. They're probably on the floor. All right. So there we have it. Sewn across, it caught on the edges, and there's our little oven dress. I'm going to repeat that with the lace on the other side. I'm going to cut strings first because they're all over and they bother me. And then I'll zoom in when I sew this one. I noticed I didn't do that. So, all right, so starting with the body of the dress, right side up, and the lace right side down. I'm going to fold that edge, put it on the corner, and wrap it around the back and clip it into place. That one's broken. Clip that into place. I'm going to lay that lace across, go around the back, give myself about an inch, cut that lace, and then fold it in, making sure the bottom edges of the lace are even and that it's lined up with my stitching. And I'm going to clip that edge down. And then, looks like I pulled that a little too tight. There we go, that's better. Then I am going to go ahead and top stitch across the bottom, keeping that lace pretty even with that stitch line that I previously made. And we are just about done. Let's zoom you in here. All right. Back stitching at the beginning and the end. Again, if you need that hump jumper, use it. Probably could have used it, but and I'm just looking to see where that line is. Looks good. Looks like it kind of went up a little bit here, so I'm just going to pull that down to be even with that stitching line all the way to the end. Back stitch. Perfect. All right. How cute is that? How cute is that? This is a Dollar Tree towel. So $1.25 for the towel. A fat quarter will sew the bodice. The lace you don't have to even include, but it's scrap lace. What about, I would say 10 to 12 inches for each side. All right, so the next step is we are going to attach the snaps to the side. This is a kit that I bought off Amazon. It just has a hand press and some fashion snaps, a lot of different colors, which is kind of fun. And we are going to measure about, and let's get the ruler. Let's be accurate. All right, I am going to go 1.5 inches down from the sleeve and about 3/4 of an inch in. So right about here. And I am going to take my stiletto. It did come with a tool. I don't know where that tool is, but I always know where my stiletto is, or at least I mostly know. And because we're going through interfacing and all of that, it can take a bit, but we're just going to get that hole in there. So you can see there is a little tiny hole right there. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. Sorry, wrong way. All right. So our hole is right here. And put the stiletto aside. I think I am going to use white. Maybe the yellow. Maybe the yellow. We'll see. What do you think? What do we think? The yellow? Is that too? Nah, it's too yellow. All right, I'm going to use white. And for these snaps, you need 2 of the little pokey ends. and one female end and one male end. So one of each of those. You can see the female end goes inside and the male end goes the other way around. Female end has a divot and the male end sticks out. So we have our hole poked. We're gonna take the flat piece with the pokey or the cap, and we're gonna stick it through that hole that we made with our stiletto. And turn it over. We see that poking through. Now it doesn't matter with this particular product or project which one you put on first and which side you do first. But then we're gonna just push on that. It should kind of stick a little bit, and then this press has a little cup down here at the bottom. So we're gonna slide that over the snap until we feel it kind of lock into that cup. And then we're just gonna squeeze slowly and set that snap. There we go. Perfect. So that's the inside and that's the outside. Then we're gonna go to the other end of the skirt where we have our hole. We're gonna do the same thing, making sure that the outside, we use the outside on the opposite end. So we're gonna make sure that we have both of the caps on the same side. That was a hard way to say that. And push that through again. And take the other end. And we're gonna push that on to kind of secure it. And then once again, take our little press and we're gonna just squeeze that down as hard as you can. It's hard for me to do that with one hand. All right, perfect. And then I'm not sure that got squeezed enough. Let me squeeze it with both hands here. There we go. It probably did. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip that right side out to where we see the snap. We're gonna test it. And it works. So now we're gonna go to the other side, making sure that our little sleeves are even. Over here, sleeves are even. And we're gonna follow that same measurement, about 1.5 inches down and about 1/4 inch. Perfect, about there. We're gonna take the stiletto again and we're gonna put it in that hole or in that spot. And well, I think it needs to go in a little more. There we go. And push that through. Perfect. And then we're gonna take the same 4 pieces. So 2 of the little pokey caps, 1 of the females, and 1 of the males. We're gonna do the exact same thing. We're just gonna, from the outside, we're gonna put that cap through and turn it over. And poke it through. And put the other end of our snap on it. And slide that press on. It's really hard to do this on the camera, sorry. Slide the press on, making sure it's lodged in that little cup. And we're gonna press that down. Making sure we're right on. There we go. All right. And then we're going to repeat with The other side, pushing that cap through. And making sure it's lined up. And press that down. And there we have it. Super easy, super fun. Oven dress. So what do you think? Fun sew? This is another one I made. It's a towel I picked up, I think it was Marshall's or Ross, someplace like that, for Christmas. Just kind of matching the material to a little bit of the style of the dress. And then this is the one we made today. It is my pattern, and I do have templates available for the pattern on my website. I also have just the pattern piece to download and you can use and cut out. Any questions, let me know. It was a fun sew. I hope you liked it. And we will see you on the 9th day of Christmas. Thank you so much and happy sewing.